Terry, we have, for at least for me, I have over 1,000 students. How can I import the whole class, or do I have to individually?
So one way to combat that is when you hit this add button, you can type in those, or if you have a list of their emails, you can put those in there, copy and paste. Or what I do whenever I have a classroom like where I'm adding all the students to it, is it will give you, where's my classroom code? In my settings. So in your settings, it gives you this class code, and you can send it out to the kids, and they can type it in and add themselves to your classroom.
Okay.
That's one way to kind of get around that without having to put in all those individual emails, because that's a little maddening when you have, you know,
Yeah.
1,000 students.
Well, and maybe that's a good way of them knowing. I mean, it's one skill that they learn in technology of
Mhm.
importing stuff. So maybe, yeah, that might help. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, for sure. No problem. You can only invite 500 per day. Oh, I did not know that. All right. And your account is limited to 1,000 total. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, so whenever I do my classrooms, I utilize Classroom Relay sometimes too, where you can see what the kids are doing while they're in your classroom. You set up a schedule. So my kids are broken up into their actual class times because I do use Classroom Relay whenever they're in my class. So mine are all broken up into classes of about 25, so which is why I have so many, even though I only teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So yeah, that's another way. You know, if you have that many students, kind of breaking them up into grade levels, or you know, however you need to break them up. And I'll show you in a minute how you can reuse posts or assign things to like different classrooms, assigning the same assignment, so that you don't have to redo that assignment for every single class. There's ways to do that as well. Okay, so for the grades tab, this is pretty useful if you're going through and just kind of seeing, like I can go through and see just how many are missing here, seeing who's turned things in. If I've returned it to them, it gives them a little check mark. So usually whenever I send things back to them just to say like, yay, you got it, then it'll give that little check mark. And also any actual graded assignments, it'll show their grades here after I go in and grade. They're struggling right now, y'all, with the distance learning. So they're struggling a little bit, but that's okay. We're making it one little bit at a time. Oh, so that just kind of shows you, you know, that basic information. You can sort it by last name or first name. The only thing I don't really like about this is that it does not put my stuff really in order, and that kind of drives me nuts. You can see it goes from like stuff that's due tomorrow to the 29th to the 16th. Oh yeah, that's a good idea to give the codes to the parents. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah, typing in just their name so you don't actually have to have their email. Yeah, most of the time you can just find it by typing in their name. So anyway, the thing that I don't like about this is that you can't get to that Google spreadsheet from this tab, which is what would make sense to me. That, you know, I could get straight to that actual spreadsheet from here, but it doesn't let you do that, and it puts things out of order, and I have absolutely no idea why it does that. I don't know. I have not found a way to get it to order things, you know, by due date or, you know, when I added it, whatever. So that is helpful and not all at the same time. I use it sometimes, you know, just to go through and see who's turned in which assignments, just getting to that quickly. Do I have any questions about the grade tab? These are all just like the basic features. Whenever you actually get into like the classwork tab and the stream and stuff, it kind of gets a little more useful. So for the stream, over here, it'll show them what's coming up as far as things being due. So whenever things are due, I think it starts at a week out. It will show them what's due when. Oh, the classroom code also pops up here. I'm crazy. So in your stream, I kind of reserve my stream for just like announcements and like fun things or whatever that they might be doing. So this is kind of where I put their like pacing guide for the week and their meeting link for the week and all that kind of stuff in here. You can reuse posts here too. So if I were to post in one 6th grade class and forget to post in the other 6th grade class, once it loads, I can choose to reuse that post. Sorry, y'all, my internet's being weird. Oh my gosh. Well, try it one more time. See if it'll be nice. There we go. Okay, so if I had forgotten to use one of the posts, I can always go back in and just choose one of these to re-upload into this classroom. So that's super useful in your stream too, because a lot of times whenever I go to type an announcement, I'll forget to choose the different classes. So if it's just a 6th grade only announcement, I'll choose both my 6th grade classes and type it in here. So you can also add just specific students. So that will only let you do it like if I'm in this one class, because it has that enrollment for this class. And I can go through and just like if there's just 2 students I need to make the announcement to, I'll select them and then make that announcement. And you can add files from your Google Drive. You can add links, YouTube videos, or files from your computer. All uploaded into these here. This is not a section where it'll make a copy for each student though, or let them edit. It'll just give them like view only rights in the stream. So it'll post all your newest announcements and stuff right up at the top. So it kind of goes in chronological order from the most recent. So it doesn't take your most recent announcements and put them at the bottom. It puts them right at the top for them. So any questions about the stream? No? Okay. So that leaves just the classwork tab, which is where the bulk of your work will happen, because this is where you actually post the assignments and material for them. So there's a lot of different parts to the classwork tab. Along the left-hand side here, you see all of my topics, and I separated my topics out by units. So they go through and they can see all their different units, and this has some other stuff just from like specific to this year. Obviously the COVID stuff is specific to this year. So they can go through and they actually see like the headers with what goes with that topic underneath. So these are just kind of their attendance questions here for the weeks. They do weekly creations, which is an optional thing for them, but then they actually get into their units. And this shows them all their units for the whole year. And right now they're working in unit 5. So and scroll down and get to it that way, or if they are logged in and want to get to it over here, they can click on that and it'll actually show them the details of all the assignments there as well. What some people do as well is they, especially right now, some of my teammates have utilized those topics as like a due date. So their topic will say due on May the 1st, and then all the assignments for that week are just listed under that topic. So that's another way you can use those topics instead of it being just like a unit. It can be all these things are due on this day. And also Google Classroom, you can assign those due dates over here, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I have the due dates assigned, since mine kind of vary, especially now with their visual journal, with their needing like a certain number of entries each week. These are what are due this week, and then these will be due the following week. So this just kind of shows them those breakdowns of where they should be submitting each of their parts of their visual journal in this unit. So there are several different ways to set it up. It just depends on what works for you and what works for your students. I know things obviously from elementary to to high school would be different, just based on what is easier for elementary age to understand and what's easier for high school kids to understand. It just depends on what works for you. So as far as creating actual material, so there's this beautiful create button up here. So you can start with creating a topic, and it'll just pull up this one little space for you to type in a unit or whatever here, and that'll create the actual topic. And it won't let you right now create a topic across different classrooms. So what I could do is just type in a topic. I'm just gonna put test topic and add it. And that popped up here at the top. And then what I can do though is if I'm going to create an assignment, test assignment, and I wanted to assign that across different classrooms, let's say I want it in both 6th grade classrooms, I can choose my test topic here, and that will create that topic in the other classroom. So even though whenever you create a topic, it doesn't let you do that across multiple classrooms, you can do that when you get to actually creating the assignment. Does that make sense? I feel like I talked around in a circle. Everybody good? So if I start to lose you, just let me know. If I'm moving too fast, whatever. It's just so hard teaching online because like I don't have feedback. I was working with my kids the other day and I was like, I don't know if y'all are lost or what. So just stop me if you need to. Okay. So whenever you go to create an assignment or whatever, the create button pulls up several different options. So the material option is what I use to post my pathways, so or like the instructions for the unit. So like with this unit 5 that they're doing now, when they open up the instructions, they get a little blurb of like, this is what this is, and then they click on it and it opens up those pathways and the instructions for that unit for them. So they don't actually turn anything in if you assign it as material, and it'll have that little like bookmark thing up here, and that kind of lets them know that like, hey, I'm not turning anything in for this, but the assignments will pop up as this little clipboard, and that's kind of what triggers them, this is what I need to do, this is where I turn things in. So going back to that, materials, where I just post material, this is where you create your assignments. So if I just create a blank assignment up here, I'm going to title it. And most of the time I make sure I'm specific in what it is. So I would put Unit 5, Part 3, and that's their visual journal entries. And I would put in just this is optional, but I usually do put just like a little thing in here, submit 2 entries for the week of, I don't even know what this week was, 4/27 to 5/1 maybe. Oops. So this is where they would submit that stuff. And what I did for this unit was I did it all the way across, so you can choose all of your classrooms that you want to put that in. Their grade category, this is one where they're creating based on that like original expression. So they're doing V.2, and that automatically changed my grading points to 4 because in my grading categories, I had it set at 4 points. I can set a due date. So I said, that this was due on 5/1, and you can make a time if you want to. And then choose my topic. If I'm in Unit 5, then I'm going to go Unit 5. You can create a rubric. I've not done a whole lot with that yet. I would like to in the future. But I'm biting off parts of the elephant, one bite at a time. So the rubrics I haven't used a whole lot yet. I did for like some bigger projects. These are pretty cool. You can reuse, you can import from a Google Sheet, or you can just create a new one. And kind of put in the different criteria, the points, level, title, and add from there. So then like if this were 2 points, and then 3 points and 4 points, since we're on that 1, 2, 3, 4 grading scale. So you can create your own, with each of the different types as well. So like I said, I haven't done a whole lot with that yet. I don't know how that translates into the grade book and all that. I'm sure it's beautiful, whatever it is. But I just haven't done that yet. So the next little button down here says originality reports, which is pretty cool, especially for, ELA teachers or whatever, if kids are typing, just making sure they're not copying and pasting from the internet. That used to be this unlimited option. You could put it on, I used to put it on all my assignments because it would also check for like Google Images. So I was running into an issue sometimes where kids would just find like a painting or whatever on Google search and then upload it as their own, which was super fun. We had lots of fun conversations about that. But the originality reports would check to make sure that they were not doing that, and it would flag me if they were. So yeah, kids are smart. Kids try to beat the system, y'all, like hardcore. So anyway, they have just updated it to where you can only do 3 per class, which is like super frustrating to me. So I only use it on like their big projects. So I can choose 3 assignments per classroom for it to do those originality reports. Now I don't know why they changed that, but they did. Sad day. Anyway, so whenever you go to add any type of file or whatever to this, let's say I wanted to add a Google Doc in here for them to be able to fill out. Let's see. Let me come over here. They did, in their unit 4, they did a health component. So let's just, I know I clicked on 7th grade, it'd be all right. So like this slideshow here is actually an interactive slideshow where they go in and they type responses to stuff. So I do this sometimes with like art critiques or whatever. They actually, like can drag and drop things. So this is one where they all need their own copy to be able to edit. So right here, I don't want them to be able to view it. If I click students can edit file, then they are all editing the same one, and I don't want that either. So I'm going to make a copy for each student. And when I assign that, it's going to give them all their own copy to be able to type in and move around and all that. So that's really helpful when you're doing things like that, when they need to fill out different things. So that's just kind of a cool thing for them to be able to do, that way. So those are kind of all the tips and tricks there. You can create something like a Google Doc, Google Slide, whatever, just straight from here. Typically what I do is I have everything created before I add it to my Google Classroom. So I don't use that create button a whole lot, but some people do. If you just put in some quick instructions in like a Google Doc or whatever, people will use that button. So that's just a preference thing. There's no right or wrong way to do that. So any questions about those kind of settings in this right now? How all those buttons work? No? Okay. So one thing about this is I can go ahead and click assign, and it will assign it to all of those classrooms in whatever topic it is that I chose, just boom, 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 right then. There's a schedule option. The thing that I don't like about this is that when I have more than one class selected, it won't let me schedule it, and I don't know why. I've seen a lot of people, discussing online about, why is that not an option for us? So I'm hoping that Google is working on making that an option. You can also just save the draft if you want to assign it at a certain time. You can save it for all 6 classes and then just go in and assign it whenever you're ready for it to pop up. But if I want to go ahead and schedule it, I have to just choose one class, and then I can hit schedule, and it will let me schedule a time for it to pop up for them. So right now it just defaulted to tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So if I didn't want them to be able to see that before tomorrow, I would just schedule it. One way to kind of get around the fact that you can't schedule for all classes at the same time is to go in and reuse those posts. So I can go in and say, I want to reuse that post that I just had for this test assignment, and I want to reuse it, and it'll pop up and then let me kind of schedule from there. So that's kind of one way around it. It's a little aggravating. I've done a whole lot of like trying to look in how to get around that the best way. But the best thing I can find is just to reuse that post and then just schedule it for the next class. So I had to do that with my visual journal entries down here because I didn't want where they're submitting for next week to pop up this week. So I would just went in and reuse that post for all my classes. And so that's scheduled for next week. And then again for the following week, because they're doing 3 weeks worth of their visual journal. So that was just kind of a way to get around that. This one popped up. Don't really need that. So that's how to schedule and possible ways to get around the fact that you can't schedule more than one class at a time, which I think is crazy. So then the next thing that it says here is a quiz assignment. So what that does is it's the same thing as an assignment, but it goes on ahead and creates a blank quiz for you from Google Forms. So you can open that up and then add in your questions, do all that. It goes on ahead and just sets it as a quiz and lets you, it automatically turns on that grade importing, and then all the other settings are pretty much the same. Title instructions, you can assign to more than one class. You can assign to specific students. You can do that for assignments as well. So sometimes I have kids who are really, craving, when we do eyes, especially kids, get the basics on how to draw an eye, but then they really want to get into like that hyper realism. So if that's them, I go through and just select those students so the other kids don't get so overwhelmed with more work is, what they would say. So you can go in and assign it to specific students as well, which is super awesome. But yeah, that will just create a blank Google form for you, and then you go in and edit it based on what you want to ask them. Did I miss anything up here? Oh, the questions. So right here is where you would type in just like a specific question. I'm using this tool right now for attendance questions for them. So whenever they log in and they see their COVID-19 attendance, they would come in and view the question and turn in their responses based on that question. And it just uploads that, right into Google Classroom for them. It doesn't go anywhere else. You can reply to them. You can also set those to where they can reply to each other. So I do that sometimes not, depending on the question. So right here, students can reply to each other, or students can edit their answer after they submit it. So you can choose to let them reply to each other or not. You can make it graded, or you can just click ungraded. You can choose a grade category, due date, all that kind of stuff. So with the attendance questions right now, it's super useful to have this due date, because if they're logging in after the due date and answering it then I know they weren't actually in during that time frame and answering that question during the allotted time. So that's kind of helpful just for that. So yeah, those are the questions. And then the reuse post works the same as it does on the stream, where you can go in and choose whatever post you want to reuse there. So I'm hitting y'all with a whole lot of information. Yeah, I have 2 different ways to do attendance right now. Either they can log in, we have weekly Google Meets where they have like a window of 30 minutes to just log in and say, hey, ask questions, whatever. And then there's also at like the back end of that, there's an hour of direct instruction. So they can log in and get counted present that way, or they can log in and do their attendance question for the week here. So just kind of 2 different measures of attendance right now, because some kids just don't want to log on, into a Google Meet with all their classmates. So I usually have about half the kids turn out for those and about half the kids do the attendance questions. So it just kind of depends on what they want to do, and a lot of kids have stuff going on at home, like siblings running around, and, so they just don't come to the actual Google Classroom, meets, but they will get their work done other ways. So just kind of 2 different ways. Okay. So for the, so if you did do, yes, some only have 1 computer, that's true. So for the Google Forms is the only one that will allow for the grade importing. So all of my pre-assessments, post-assessments are Google Forms. So whenever I was posting this assignment, it has that option to turn on that grade importing for that assignment. And what it did was, I didn't put a grade category for this one because I wanted it to pull those total points from the Google form. So the actual Google form itself has the option for 13 points. So whenever they go through, they're getting a total of 13 if they get them all right. So it updated that total points to match the Google form. So then whenever I go in, this made my grading life so much easier, y'all. I was so happy. Whenever I click view assignment, I can import the grades from there, and it will update their grades right here. And then I can go back and see, you know, what they got right or wrong in the Google form, and I can return these to them, which I need to do anyway. And so then you can see who's still missing and then who has turned in the assignments here. So that makes grading super, super, super easy. You know, if you're doing assessments or whatever, their assessments are just kind of like a piece of their puzzle, which is why I didn't set a grading category for that. It's just kind of a piece that you just measures, like, did you learn something from point A to point B in this unit? So that's not like their end all grade. So anyway, okay. Make sure I didn't miss any of my tips and tricks in any of that. So there are 3 different ways that you can comment or give feedback in Google Classroom. So one way is to post on the stream. So if you want all the kids or just specific kids here, you know, to see your comments, you can do it there. Another way to do it is, like, you know, with these kids who might not have had such a great grade, I could go back and type a comment here and say, hey, go back and check out, you know, task number 2 or whatever. And then retry. And then another way to do it is to actually go into their work and add a comment here. And then you can also, like, add comments to specific parts of their drawing. So like if I had a spot where it was just like too much negative space or whatever, I could come in, you know, let's just pretend that all this here was negative space. I could say, you know, you have too much negative space in this spot, try adding something there and then resubmitting. So all kinds of ways to do things. So, and then you can grade from here, see the multiple submissions. So anyway, that show you is back out here. I showed you how you can drag and drop those around. And then so this year we did semester-based classes. So what I did at the beginning of the year was set up my Google Classrooms, and even like having 2 groups in this semester, I would set up my Google Classroom with my assignments and everything. And then what you can do is you can go in and you can copy the classroom and you can actually duplicate it. So all those assignments and all the things popped up from one classroom to the next. So if you have a Google Classroom already set up, you can make a copy of it and assign different kids to the other one, which is useful when you have 2 different groups, or, you know, I'll duplicate my classroom from year to year. And I might go in and tweak some things and make some things better based on their exit tickets that they gave me, you know, at the end of their units. So I'll go in and tweak those things and then duplicate the classroom, which is super helpful. And then once you're done with a classroom, you can archive it. It doesn't go away, it doesn't delete it, but it just kind of goes off of your home screen, so you're not seeing old classrooms pop up. So you can see the folder for the Google Drive if you click right there. You can also do that inside the classroom, but what it'll do is pop up with all the different things, and whenever you open the folders, it'll show you the student submissions in there. So all their cute little faces in the background. So it shows their actual submissions all in one folder if you wanted to go in and see just like one specific assignment. You can do that. You can also do that inside your Google Classroom from the classwork tab. You can open up the Drive folder from there as well. And then the last piece is the Google Sheet. So the Google Sheet is what I use when it comes time to import or to put grades into PowerSchool. I go in and you can choose any of the actual assignments. You can't do it from the material, but I can do it from any of the assignments. And I can click on View Assignment, And then up here in this corner, it has this little settings button, and I can copy all grades to Google Sheets. And it will actually continue to update this as you continue to log into it. And it houses it in your Google Drive. So once it loads, it's got a lot to load. But once it loads, it'll show all of the grades for all the things that I have graded or whatever throughout the semester once it loads. But I usually go through and print that out. And then that's my grade book that I use to put my grades into Power School. There we go. So if I were doing, Unit 1, putting those grades in, I would just scroll through here and put those grades in, for Unit 1 and then move on. A lot of this stuff is ungraded, and if it's ungraded, it just leaves it blank. But you can scroll through and see each kid and each of their grades. And so I just usually print that out. I'll delete the columns that aren't graded and then print it just for ease of use. So yeah, it does that for all your classrooms, which is super helpful.
Okay, like I haven't set this up yet, so I was just wondering if there was maybe something immediately that, like, I'm starting to get some students' artwork just so I can show it to everybody to say, hey, this is what these students are doing. Show me what you're doing, instead of, okay, you can either, like we do Dojo. So I'm like, I've been getting stuff like that from artwork from there, and then emails, but I don't want to do emails because then that's going to be like flooding my emails. So I didn't know if there was a place, or if they do that, I can just upload it into one general area and say, hey, students, look at these students' work.
Yeah, so definitely, like I said, on that stream, so like if I wanted to show her work here, you have the option to download it. So what it's going to do is download, and it's going to pop up on the bottom down here if you're using Google Chrome. And then I can come back over to my stream, and I can add that file. And what I can actually do is Google lets you drag and drop files. So I just dropped it right there, and I can click upload. And I can just put, like, check out Emily's first visual journal submission. Okay. And then I can post that. I can post it to different classrooms as well. So I can show all kinds of classrooms her artwork. And what I would typically do is get her permission, like say, hey, can I, just like artwork first. That way she knows it's coming, but then all the students can see it, and you can do it anonymously too. You don't have to put her name in there or whatever.
Well, that's what I was thinking, just in case if, I don't know, if there's any student that, is not supposed to have anything of their name or whatever shown. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
As an elementary teacher, all this grading looks wonderful, but we kind of, at my school, grade on effort more than anything else. So would all of that be more geared towards middle school and high school?
So Google Forms probably, a little more middle high. One way, so like for these things here, if these kids came in and they, gave me their best work as far as their actual artwork, I always tell them I'm not grading you on your ability to like be Picasso or like to do the most beautiful artwork I've ever seen in my whole life. I'm looking for your growth. So when they do their lessons and then they do their final project, if I feel like that they've really done their best, then like she's going to get a 4, because she came in, she didn't leave me any negative space. That was, one of the things, like no negative space, use what you got at home, and just do the best you can kind of for these visual journals. So she would definitely go ahead and, get a 4. And photography was one of their options as well, where they use the rule of thirds. So I can see she used the rule of thirds here. That kind of, whenever I actually grade their projects and their artwork, I'm not quite so harsh on them there. If they did it and they did it to what I feel like was the best of their ability, then they're going to get a 4, So that's kind of, I guess, grading the same way. if you guys run into anything where you do have questions, just email me, let me know.